Okay, welcome everybody. Today we are live for an hour long with a great guest I have today, Dr. Daria Chrobok. She is a PhD in plant biology and also entrepreneur, founder of DC SciArt. How are you, Daria? Thanks for being my guest today. It's a great pleasure to have you.
Thanks a lot for inviting me. I'm doing well and excited for this now today.
Fantastic. So I wanted to have you today because you are this type of personality who have this kind of dual, expertise, science, but also uh, art, applied art, and it's very interesting to have you because you are a model for many scientists who would like to, to do something else but related to science, and this is great to have you today with me. If you're okay, we are going to talk about your little bit your background, your childhood, if you were already an artist or a scientist or both, and how did you evolve, and why did you enter into a scientific study at university, and so on. And then we will talk about more in depth, more in deep about your expertise in scientific illustration. Do you,
Yes,
you agree?
yes, sounds good.
Fantastic. So, Daria, please tell us a little bit about your childhood. How can I say? Did you already very young interested by art or science, or how this both things came together? Because it could be a little bit polarizing thing, because very rational scientific studies, and also art, which is more emotional and so on. So how was your childhood?
So now, if I look at it in retrospect, I think both of these sides were always inside of me, like
Mm,
the artistic side and also the scientific side. So I grew up my parents telling me that I would draw a lot and paint when I was small already. And my dad is an artist, was an artist, and so that's something. Art was always surrounding me when I grew up. And at the same time, I was always super interested in nature and my surrounding and the world, and plants, animals, bugs, being in the forest. And both of my parents were very much into nature as well, so we would go for hiking and camping, and this would be activities that were very normal for me when I was younger. So it was always kind of around me and inside of me, and somehow it merged, it fitted. And then when I would go to school, to high school, my favorite subjects and topics would be science and art. So this would also, I would choose those as my majors as well throughout
mm.
high school. And yeah.
So you are going too fast, Lam. But and I have two questions. First, so your father was a kind of role model because he was an artist. In what was his what is his major? I mean, drawing, sculpture, or
Oh, like everything, basically.
everything.
My dad was able to do anything. He would
Mm,
paint, he would draw, he would sculpt, he would like do woodwork, he would like all the things. And I have this, from childhood memories, I have this smell of oil and turpentine when he would do his oil paintings. So this is something very, very present inside of me, together with like tobacco smoke, because he would smoke a pipe. So this is something that was always as a memory. And my dad, he had this innate talent. I think it was from the get-go. He was born and he had it. That's how he grew up, and then he would continue with it. But it was, and what he worked with, he then became. He worked in the opera for everything that's needed on the stage in the
mm.
set of requisites. So he would do all these things, paintings, sculpturings, and all that. But actually he was the perfect example of this archetype of an artist that is more like this plagued artist with all
Mm.
the artistic like crazinesses and like and this like so I also, even though I saw that he was so great at everything that he was doing, I also at the same time realized like you can't make a living from art, and art is like nice to have but not necessary. And there's, I don't necessarily want to become that type of an artist with all these issues that we as people have, like he had, like I had, like everybody of us had. It's kind of a little bit I felt, that's how I perceived it, a little bit exhilarated when being this kind of plagued typical artist, you know.
And you were allowed to, to play with his painting and stuff in his atelier. I don't know how can we
Mhm.
can say it in English. Atelier is the place where artists made their stuff. You
Yes.
were allowed to go and to play with the painting and so on. So you have already your hands on all of his stuff.
Not quite, actually. And that's where my mom actually comes in, because
Mhm.
my dad was not very intuitive and good at teaching this.
Mm.
And so, even though it was quite clear that I also had this kind of tendency towards art, it was not so easy for him to teach me and to show me things. But that's where my
Mm.
mom came in. My mom would be very creative as well, not the typical artist. But she would, do all kinds of crafts with us, for
Mm.
example. And she's very creative in, like, when it comes to life and solving things. So she would always like encourage me to paint, to draw, and to like gift me paints, for example, or little courses here and there. And she would also encourage my dad then to try to teach me a little bit. But his way of teaching was very like, I think, artistically speaking, of course, you need to sit down and learn perspectives and shadows and lightnings and still lifes. But it was boring for me.
Mm.
That was his way of trying to teach me, but I was bored. So it was a little bit of it was a good combination. My dad and my mom kind of in their own ways living, or like kind of supporting me
Mm.
in this artistic
Uh,
mm, side of me. Yeah.
I will make a jump in the time. How he see does he see your way of doing art now with these digital tablets and so on? Is it something weird for him, or he adopted also the tools?
Oh, my dad? No, hell no. He's not painting and doing anything artistic anymore.
Mm,
This stopped. And he sees what I do. And I sometimes, when I would go and visit, they live in Germany, I live in Sweden. I bring my iPad, tablet. So I'd
mm,
show him how. That's one of the tools that I use. And he
mm.
would be very interested in it, but he wouldn't use it at all. I think it's
Okay.
it's not. He doesn't have a phone. He doesn't know how to turn on a computer. So he's very anti-technology.
Mm. I
Not at
can
all.
understand. So
Yeah.
it's really funny. So it's another point you say that very interesting is that in high school in Poland, right? You did your
Germany.
Germany. Okay, it's
Mhm.
interesting that you say that you were able at the same time to follow scientific study and to choose art as an option.
Mhm.
It's very interesting to see the difference of education between, for example, Germany and France. In France,
Mhm.
the education system, make a kind of very strict dichotomy between rational education, science, math, biology,
Mhm.
and all the hard science, and those who want to study, soft science and literature, art, and etc. And in high school you have to choose. You can't
Oh, yeah.
follow scientific study in high school and have the art as an option.
Okay.
You don't have the option. You have to choose
Wow.
between rationality or let's say irrationality.
Enough.
Yeah, it's stupid and it's killing all the creativity of our elite, because because the scientific study are supposed to produce the elite of France, and they are very dry. They don't have any emotion. They are very technocratic, and and this is the education system that France chose for as a model. And it's
Yeah.
very interesting to see that just another country, Germany, uh, that is perceived by French as a very very technical science, and very rational, and they offer this option to science student to also to have an art
Mhm.
as a minor or as a major. You told me that, so this is very very interesting.
Mhm. Yeah, I was very happy because when it came, we always had this throughout high school, these phases of where we could pick subjects. So I had a
Mm,
phase where I would pick a lot of languages. So I'd add French and Spanish and Latin and stuff. And then when I would go further, I realized, but I can choose anything else, and I really loved art. And I was the only one with a combination of a biology and an art major. So
mm,
nobody else had this type of combination. It's not such a common thing to do. But I,
mm,
didn't care because just wanted to do what I'm drawn to. I didn't want to go for this, what everybody's supposed to do, or what's supposedly the most difficult. Or, I mean, people wouldn't choose art because they can't do it. So for certain people,
Mm.
art is difficult. But for me, I wanted really to go along what I kind of, where my heart goes towards. So that's why I picked these two. And it was, yeah, I loved it.
So, and then for your university study, you oriented all at the first year toward plant biology, or did it something came at the end when you want to choose your PhD? How do you uh, orientate, your way into
Mhm.
the university?
So the first thing that I thought when I finished my high school, I thought, okay, I love the science and I love the art. So what do I want to do, go about? Like, and with art, I had this, because I grew up with my dad the way he was, and the feeling of like, art and generally what society says, you can't make a living with art. I had all these wrong beliefs instilled in my mind, and then seeing technology rising, because I grew up without a phone and without computers. So then
Mm.
suddenly all of these things appeared. And then I thought like, technology, I don't like it. I will not draw on the computer. I hate it. That's not real art. These types of things is what I thought. So, as I loved biology and art a lot, I decided I wanted to study biology. And
Mm.
the thing is, because I had this major in biology, we had a really great teacher there, and I
Mm.
was doing like a exam work that was specifically related to my family and the disability that runs in my family. So I was able to find out about that on a genetic level. So I got in
Mm.
contact with the human's genetic lab, and I could collect samples of my family members, and then I thought, I thought in my high school, oh, I'm finding out the reason of my disability in the family. Didn't work. But after like I finished high school, I contacted the lab and asked if I could do an internship. And they agreed, because I thought maybe if I want to study biology, I should see if I like to work in the lab. So they agreed. They took me in for like 7 or 8 weeks. I went to Poland, collected blood samples of my family members, went to the lab and did, everything. PCR, phylogenetic analysis, and so on and so forth for 7 weeks. I thought like, I love to work in the lab. I should go for biology, that's decided basically. So this is how I got there somehow.
And at the same time, during the bachelor and the master, do you did you nurture your artistic techniques, or did you discover scientific illustration, particularly with the digital tools now
Mm.
lately, or how does it come into your work?
That was actually a little bit like during my bachelor's already. I noticed that I am drawn to mostly plant sciences.
Hmm.
That was like immediately everything that with plant sciences was where my heart would beat towards. And then with my bachelor thesis and my master thesis, I went to a plant laboratory.
Mm.
And there in the theses, when I was supposed to write them or make presentations, I would do visuals already. But I
Mm.
didn't have it on my mind that that's kind of a job or anything. I just thought like, oh, I draw with very simple tools, whatever I had, digital tools, and just visualize, because I hated to copy things. I didn't want to
Mm.
take something that somebody else did. And I loved art, so I kind of did it automatically. But it didn't click for me until my PhD, actually.
Mm.
So it's only in my PhD, when I already decided to go for plants, in my PhD, I realized, man, that's the shit. That's what I want to do.
It's fascinating because the best way to communicate experimental science. I don't know for formal science, because there are math and and theoretical science, such as theoretical physics. But in experimental science, the best way to communicate anything, any idea, any experiment design, is by drawing. We are so I can guess that when you show your poster or your thesis, bachelor thesis, master's, with your own illustration, it was very, it should have surely impressed the professors,
I
right?
think I think I was not a very good person when it comes to exams during the
Mm.
studies, but I always made my practical works, and my bachelor thesis was always top grade, same as master thesis. And it was a little bit different because I also put a lot of effort in it, and I decided I'm gonna write it in English as well, even though I studied in German. So And also my presentations usually were quite good and visual. Yeah, if I think back.
Fantastic. So, and how did you decide to enter a PhD program? Because you could have specialized in scientific illustration at the master level, and
Mm.
start working for a scientific journal as an illustrator.
Mhm.
Um, why did you choose to enter a PhD program? Because it's a very it's not just most people think it's just one new year. No, it's 3 years, so it's just like starting again a whole new path into the university
Mhm.
time, because
Mhm.
from bachelor to the master we have 3 years, and PhD is not just one supplementary years; it's three
Mhm.
supplementary years. So it doubled the time in university. So why did you choose to enter a PhD program?
So there's several reasons. And in my case, the bachelor was 3 years, the master was 2 years, and the PhD was 5 years.
Oh,
So
okay, okay.
in total, it's 10 years. Why I decided is because after my master's, I felt, okay, I don't really want to go and look for a job. I don't want to work
Mm,
in, like and apply and for companies and work somewhere. I
mm,
felt if I do a PhD, and I really enjoyed working in the lab, and doing research. For me, it's like
mm,
solving riddles, and I really enjoyed doing experiments and all the reading and the writing and everything. And I thought, if I do a PhD, I kind of extend a little bit my youth. It's not yet like a full serious job in some kind of company, which I didn't feel like applying to any of those. I didn't want to enter the workforce yet somehow. I felt if I do a PhD, I extend a little bit this research, riddle science, plant science bubble. And then in the end, it was a very funny synchronicity, I call it, because in my master studies my in my thesis, my boss sent me to Sweden, to Umeå, where I am now, to do experiments for my
mm,
thesis, and I got to know the lab that I did my PhD in. So then I really enjoyed the place here. I immediately fell in love basically with the place and with my supervisors back then. So I just asked them if they want to take me as a PhD student, and they agreed, because
mm,
the thing is, for me, it is super important to go and do something where my heart beats for, and my soul kind of lights up, but also the people. I need to connect with the people. And
mm,
it was really nice. These two of my supervisors that then became my supervisors for my PhD thesis, I really connected well with them, and I liked the place. I liked the north of Sweden. So there were so many factors that I felt like immediately kind of, that's my spot to be for the next 5 years. So that was an easy, like, intuitive decision, for like, with all the factors that are important for me: people, place, and then, like, yeah, everything kind of fitted.
So you at that time you followed your passion for science and research. It's a great, and just a digression to all people who are following us. I apologize. I don't know why the live on my LinkedIn doesn't work, but I put the YouTube link on the comment. So if you wanna follow the live, it's in the link is in the comment section. But the live on the LinkedIn of Daria works perfectly. I checked, it
Hmm.
works. So I don't know why it's technical issue.
Yes.
Sometimes happens. So I
Yes.
apologize for that. So okay, you end your PhD, and once again, why didn't you continue the academic career and pursue with a postdoc, etc. You know how it works, and what what was the transition to quit, let's say, the academic world,
Yeah.
and to little by little becoming an entrepreneur.
It was, again, several little moments, but some of them were little crises during the
Mm,
PhD, realizing certain things. That one of the biggest one is that I didn't feel like me as a person, my personality, the way I am, what I feel is important, my morals and ethical values. I didn't feel that I fit. It was like a complete mismatch in
mm,
how the academic system works. So I didn't feel kind of aligned with that. And then I all kinds of things, like the way things work. I got really disappointed, the whole system, because my topic and my research group, my supervisors were great, but everything else around, and then this, like, this unhealthy way of how academia works, it was just
mm,
completely, I was disappointed. I thought, like, this, it's not just doing science and solving riddles for the sake of it. There's so much bureaucracy, there's so much politics, there's so much
mm,
bullpoop around. And I was just like, I don't I don't want that. And I am the way that I am, that I also feel like I would like to enjoy my life. And
Mm,
I am, I am a certain way that I felt that it, even if I think it might be needed, this type of behavior and people in academia, it's not really wanted yet. The system is not there yet to switch. So I decided, I don't want to continue. At the same time, while I was writing my papers and doing my research and posters and stuff, I realized I need to visualize everything that I do. So that's where it came in, like, oh, I need to like basically illustrate what
mm,
is it that I'm doing, the model of my author paper, for example. And then I could just get lost in it. Like for hours, I could sit and illustrate what I was doing for my own science, And then my bosses realized that I like this and that I'm good at it. So then they asked me for help for their things. And then other colleagues started asking me for help as well. And then certain other occasions occurred where I realized, I don't want to stay here, but I love science and art creeped kind of back in again. So why should maybe just go for that? I should become a scientific illustrator after my PhD. The decision done,
so
basically.
you knew that this job exists already. No, it's not
No,
something you discovered. You know already that scientific illustration as a job exists.
no,
For example, for scientific journals, or the poster that the manufacturer offer to the labs. You didn't know that just
I
such a
didn't.
job.
I didn't. I didn't really after I thought, I would like to do this, I started to do research, and there is something like a scientific illustrator. Most of the time it was this classical botanical or anatomical drawings
Hmm.
that were there, and that was not something that I wanted to do. I would be more on the molecular physiology side. But then I realized, okay, this is something that has always kind of been there, but not really, because people would, in my surrounding, nobody would work with a scientific illustrator. I've never heard of anyone doing
Hmm.
that. So usually people would, paste together their squares and circles in PowerPoint, but I wasn't in contact with any journal. So I wasn't aware that there is actually professionals. So
Hmm.
it was not only after reading, and then I realized, man, like where are all those people? You don't
Hmm.
find these official positions. Maybe now more, because I think it changed,
Hmm.
but you don't find these official positions in journals, because it's just something not really super common, but I think it's growing. So it will become more and more important. So yeah,
So you just decided to, okay, maybe I can do that. And how did you put the first step, and decided to to launch your own business? And how did you market yourself? How did you design all your offers? And because it's something, having an expertise or a talent, and it's something else to make it a business.
yeah, like huge difference, for
Mm,
sure. And when I during my PhD, when I decided that I want to do that, without knowing even how I want to do it, I thought like, okay, if I want that and nobody knows that I can do it and I want to do it for them, what's the point? So then I had to face my first fear of social media, because I didn't like social media at all. So okay, maybe I should get myself an Instagram and a Twitter, Daria, and then just like, get used to these type of things. So these were my initial things. And then to share this with people, to speak about it as well in my surrounding. And then after I defended my PhD, I always thought the best case scenario would be if I have like a part-time position in the beginning, and
mhm,
then like I can start it slowly. So I have my basic costs covered and I don't have any stress and panic. And in the first half year after my PhD, I did a lot of things. For example, I got a job coach and business coach. So then, because now, like I told, my background a bit is basically biology and art and like two nerdy topics, nothing with business. And I hated money all my life. Nobody really has any business in my family, my close
mm,
family. So it's completely, that's as far away as it could be for me, who I am. So, but then after this half year after my PhD, I got a business coach from an insurance that I had. through the PhD being employed. And then she helped me with a business plan, with a budget, with a survey, and she introduced me to an accountant. She said that's
Mm,
really important. So I still work with that accountant because one
mm,
of my other biggest fears was money, bills, taxes. What if I do
mm,
something wrong and they kick me out of the country? Stuff like that. And having an accountant following my things would be very like was very is still very good. And then I also applied for startup incubator. So that means it's an institution basically funded by universities, also
mm,
the EU, where they have a lot of job coaches with a lot of different expertise and they help startups. So I got
mm,
accepted. So then I got, in contact with a lot of different people that know a lot of things about marketing, sales, branding, la la la. I also went to like light business school in light Swedish. That's also something for free that they offer
mm,
because Sweden is quite good when it comes to entrepreneurship. They support. So I went
mm,
to learn all of these tiny things and little courses here and there. And at some point, I also went to the editor in chief of a journal, and Physiologia Plantarum is the journal. That's a and he was editor in chief on our and working in our department. And I actually illustrated for that journal before because I won a grant. So I just
mm,
went to his office and asked him, and he knew that I wanted to become a scientific illustrator and start my company. But I went anyways to his office and asked him if they need somebody like me at the journal, like that I could help them with what I've done before. And then he said, you know what? This one colleague is going on maternity leave. Do you want to replace her for a year and do illustrations? So that
mm,
was a perfect thing that I think I manifested it. I was able to, in the first year that I started my company, started in the startup incubator. I also started at the journal for 75% the first half year and then 50% the second half year. And then I could kind of start slowly with my company and clients and figuring out the bookkeeping and
mm,
everything and the billing. And then on my first 3 years, it was a learning and trial and error when it comes to offerings, when it comes to
mm,
pricing, when it comes to how do I share what I do, all kinds of fears, money, social media, networking. I don't want to be in your face. I can do a scientific illustration for you. Do you want that? So to find out what is kind of my way of going
mm.
about it and navigating the business world.
What is very important is that you do your part job, in the scientific journals, or you were illustrator, because you learn what are the criteria of a scientific journal, what are their challenge, what are their timing, of producing articles, and with all the stuff in place. So it was I think there was a great help for your transition, because exactly then the type of client you can knock at their door, and what is their needs, what are their needs,
Yeah,
right?
even though I had quite a good like grasp of that already before, but what was
Mm,
really good is that I knew everything else that happens behind, this black box of submitting an article. Before it was just
mm,
I send it somewhere, something's happening. Now I got into the technical editing and the technicalities of figures like graphs as well. So I learned from that perspective and how long things take and so on and so forth. And I learned about social media as well through them because I also was responsible for social media, and then we came up with different illustrative projects. So from that perspective, it was to learn how a journal works and how a journal could be a client for me,
mm,
which later on also happened. I had some other illustrations I did for journals. It was very good, yeah. But also, if I share with now, if I speak with my clients, they don't have to worry that I don't know how it is, like how to format things, because I know from all the clients that I did with things with, but also from the journal, I have the technical details of what is important. They don't have to worry about that when it comes to me making the figures. Whatever they
mm,
get is going to be accepted by the journal, or in resolution, for example, and stuff like this. So that's very valuable. And I still work with that journal together, and they kind of
mm.
became my clients. So we transitioned our work agreements from the beginning of that part-time position to something else. So that's also great, to have that.
That this is very great to hear how progressively you transition from
Mm.
scientist to scientist and artist, but then to become an entrepreneur, and
Mm.
this is very interesting. And did you enjoy learning all this stuff about marketing, sale, and accountability, etc., or was it something you supported, because you had to?
I enjoy to learn generally, to find out about things, and I enjoy to listen to people that are experts in what they do,
Mm,
and that's what we got. We got these experts in marketing and this and this and that. So, and that was great. But I noticed as well that there were certain things that I just didn't give a damn about. I don't want to think about freaking sales funnels, and I
mm,
don't want to think about certain this or cold calling. There are
mm,
certain things that I realized that were going totally against my personality. So at
mm,
some point, I had two job coaches, Oscar and Marlene, amazing people. Oscar, super rational, Marlene, more flowy and intuitive. Oscar would come like, Daria, make an Excel sheet with the data and the numbers and all that. And Marlene would be a completely different way. And I immediately knew where I'm gravitating towards. Even though
mm,
I can be analytic and calculate numbers, and I don't give a damn about most of the time Excel sheets and this rational and logical, and this is how you're supposed to be doing it, so do it. I'm very like, and to kind of navigate that, I would still sometimes push myself. Okay, I do this cold call just to know how it feels. It feels like crap, so I'm not going to do it
mm,
anymore. So in that way, I think it is a lot about, you get the resources because I got this incubator with all the knowledge and everything.
mm,
And then you see what fits, or at least for me, I see what fit and how can I
mm,
adapt it. And then they would always be open to my ways of being. If I'd say like, that doesn't fit me, what about this? And they'd be like, okay, let's help you with that. So there is no this one way only. And because I feel it's very important that I listen to myself, how things work, because if I don't do things with joy, it's not going to help. I'm not going to continue doing it. And other people, being able to adapt to the way that I was. And the startup incubator, that job coach was not the only thing, because further down the line, I noticed I have a problem with my money mindset. I have still a problem with social media and how to sell myself. So I got
mm,
myself external coaches and I paid for their services specifically for issues that I found. Okay, Daria, damn it, you can't keep on going like this. It's just stressing
mm,
you out. So try to find help. And that's what I did as well. Again, experts in whatever it is that I felt was a weakness of mine, because
mm.
I could sit on it for years and maybe fiddle around and fix it. But if I actually invest a little bit in myself, ask a person, bam, it's going to be faster, the growth, basically.
Absolutely.
Mm.
It's fun. And so, what? When did you incorporated your company? The timing, the date. Sorry, the year.
The timing,
No, the year when you incorporated your company.
it was 2019, January
2009.
2019.
Oh, just before. So you worked nearly 1 year before the COVID, right?
Yes.
But I imagine that the COVID, how the COVID impacted your business, because you're a digital company and you sell digitally. So,
Yes.
but the science was stopped, during the first year.
Yeah, but the thing is the writing not, and the
Mm,
submitting not, and the doing figures not. I
mm,
didn't notice the difference actually. I didn't notice
great.
suddenly nothing came in, because people still need it. People would still
Mm,
need to do presentations, submit their articles and stuff like this. Because oftentimes things get delayed when, it's, and then this experiment, and then that next thing, doing, but the writing is getting delayed and the doing figures is getting delayed. And that time, I feel people would focus more on that, because I didn't see any,
mm.
changes.
So, who are your clients? I mean, you have, so of course, peer-reviewed scientific journals. You have, I guess, communication department of university and research institute. You could have popular science journals,
Mhm.
TV,
Not
maybe
yet.
TV,
Ah,
not
no,
yet,
wait, it's not true.
because they are less, but there are still some science TV show. They are
Mhm.
still interesting people, and they use many illustration.
Mhm.
So, what type of client do you have, or do you have more than what I cited, or do you focus on one type of client?
No, I don't focus on one type of client. The majority of my clients are actually researchers, so
Hmm.
professors, group leaders on institutes, universities. I also have sometimes agricultural companies because I'm a plant biologist. That's the
Mhm.
majority of the illustrations that I do. So some companies that do produce a certain type of product for
Mhm.
agricultural industry sometimes need visuals. But I could also do medical illustrations. So I've done
Mhm.
some of them about diseases or breast milk formula development and stuff like that. Um, and so it is, when you said TV, I did some illustrations for my supervisor during my PhD because he was invited to give like a TV
Mm.
talk and a presentation. So I did
Sure.
illustrations for that, but never really TV, also never newspapers or
Mm.
magazines. So, but as you said, like the potential client base is huge, it's
Mm.
freaking big because it's not just sometimes, if you have one scientific concept, you can illustrate it in 50 different ways,
Mm.
depending on the audience, depending where you want to post it,
Mm.
depending on sometimes I do social illustrations that I use for social media or for web pages or for presentations that are a bit more fun, to
Mm.
summarize something. And then it could be a little comic. And there's so many different ways of illustrating as well, that it's basically endless. In
Mm.
museums could be some scientific illustrators that go more for species drawings. They could be doing illustrations for museums as well. Posters, any type
Mm.
of natural reserves where you have to show like an ecosystem, for example. It's everywhere. It could be pharmaceutical industry as well, biotech industry. It's really, it's what you said in the beginning. We learn and we understand by looking at visuals. I
Mm.
mean, if you were a baby and a toddler, how do you learn that's a car? By looking at the drawing of a car.
Exactly.
That's the first thing. And it's just it didn't change and it won't change because now actually the opposite. Like everything becomes faster and quicker and more efficient and then you have to do everything at once, but the brain doesn't catch up. It takes so
Mm.
much brain capacity, but if you look at a visual, bam, like 2 minutes and you get the concept instead of 2 hours reading the freaking paper. So it's yeah, that's it's
With
everywhere.
the with a great illustration, you can learn it is in a complex scientific article just by just watching the illustration.
Yes.
If it's well done, it's usually much more informative than all the blah blah in the text.
Yes. And you know what it also does? The psychological component of, because in my PhD, if I would read an article, I would read 20 pages, not a single visual, I say I don't read it. I cannot afford the time and me being tired
Mm.
afterwards, not being able to do anything. But if I see like somebody actually put effort, the researchers thought, let's make it easy for whoever's
Mm.
interested in our science to understand it. You kind of, there's this psychological component of, oh, somebody actually cares if I get it
Mm.
or not. If I, and that's like a connecting point as well. That's immediate, like you have, at least for me, I have a better feeling. I enjoy reading it. I will remember it better, and it's making them stand out from the crowd. So that's a huge aspect of it.
We had a motto when I was in the academics, and I also was a PhD student, that older PhD student taught to younger PhD students, and we also taught back to younger ones.
Mhm.
It was if at the end of your PhD defense, you have a beautiful illustration, the last slide, the beautiful that summarize everything you have done, you have succeeded your PhD. this
That's the
is
way.
this is this is this it remained in my brain, when I defended my PhD. I had this last slide with my beautiful model, of course made with PowerPoint. It was ugly, but
Doesn't
it,
matter.
I had it, I had it, so I was sure that I was succeed.
Yes, you did it right.
Mm.
Exactly. That's the way to go. Yeah.
Particularly in biology, it's true. I don't know for chemists or for physicians, but physics.
Mhm.
But and what about chemist and chemistry derived technology, physics and physics derived technologies? Do you have client, or do you target to have ones? And how do you interact with these other aliens in the scientific world?
Yeah, that's a bit more difficult. Actually, I
Mhm.
had once a biophysics illustration that I've been done with like membrane components and stuff. I would actually love to illustrate more physics concepts or
Mm.
quantum physics concepts. That's something that I always ran away from physics. I thought like, oh my God, this is terrible. I don't get it. But I think there is a beauty in it, and I'm very interested in it. So if I ever could, get a hold of somebody that is working in physics and quantum physics, and it's also interested actually to somehow easy explain science to people, because not everybody wants to. Many
Mm,
scientists just want to go for whatever they publish. They don't want to necessarily do outreach, or they don't. Scientists are special people. They don't often, care so much about this human side of things and making things easy, accessible, because as much, the more complex and complicated it is, the more scientific. So if I
mm.
could get a hold of somebody that would love to interact and collaborate on that, I'd love to do that.
Fantastic. Let's make a call to action to people who are
Physicists.
in the physics and chemistry world. Nanotechnology is also a
Yes.
fantastic world of opportunity for illustration. Nanotechnologies now are just amazing, and
Yeah.
of course, quantum physics and so on. It's very fascinating. Maybe we can see some of your work right now. What do you think?
Yeah. Well, yeah. You could show slide 24 that I sent to you, and then that's going to be a lot of planned illustrations and yeah, and that one. So you see, like it's usually quite colorful, a lot of green, um, but it's
Sorry.
yeah.
Okay. Do you see the screen?
Yeah, I see the slide, like and the small ones on the side. It's not full screen yet.
Ah, you don't have the full screen?
Mm-mm.
It's weird because I put it on full screen. Let me recheck. Maybe I can do that. No. Uh,
No, but maybe I don't know. Maybe it's okay.
okay, let's keep it like that because
Yes,
I
yes.
will sell this slide as a picture in the blog article.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
people, sorry.
exactly. You can do that. Yeah. So there you see a lot of different ones. There is the like sometimes it's logos as well that people want. Sometimes it's journal covers, and there's abstract ways of depicting science for book articles. And the right lower corner is the biophysics one. A lot of them is about plants, chloroplasts. Sometimes for social media, a little bit of something about wine. So it's it can be very different, and these are for publications, grants, web pages, books, covers, social media posts, or it's or one agricultural company.
Mm, mm,
So it
mm,
really is it can vary a lot. So these are
mm.
just some of the illustrations.
The needs and the demand is huge because uh, if you're a active scientist in the academia, principal investigator, assistant professor, so on, and full professor, whatever the title, and you wanna write an article, a review article, or you wanna
Hmm.
communicate it to a wider public in TV or in a pop science, how you can't transmit your idea without this
No.
um, this type of illustration, and you need an expert. You can't do it by yourself. You can do it with PowerPoint, but we know
Yeah.
all how ugly this illustration
Mhm.
that we made with PowerPoint are ugly and boring.
Yeah.
These that are not only beautiful, but they are also very impactful. They enter into our brain, and they
Yeah.
they help us to understand, and it make the message memorable. Though this is this is really great. So I have a question about the emergence of. So I have two separate questions. Um,
Yes. Do you want to continue sharing the screen?
what do you think? I keep it or?
I don't know. No, just so that I know that it's fine. I mean, either way.
Okay, so you tell me. Just let me formulate my question because it's important. We have now artificial intelligence, generative artificial intelligence. I'm pretty sure that you are not intrigued, by this artificial
Mm.
intelligence, particularly the image generator, because they can't produce, um, the exactitude of what this illustration that you made, that you made. Um, they can only be full of mistakes. So, but is there a threat for you, or do you see as an opportunity? How do you see this artificial intelligence?
So I have a very I have like when it comes to scientific illustrations, I think it's as you said, it's not a threat at all.
Mhm,
It cannot replace a human being that has scientific and artistic skills and understands and knows and can adjust. And actually, a big part of being a scientific illustrator is to interact with another human being
mhm,
and to be able to read like all kinds of subtle cues when it comes to soft skills and creating an environment where people feel actually safe to come and say like, I need help, can you help me, and I pay you. So it's a lot about human interactions, and that's what people want, that's what people crave. And artificial intelligence and all these tools can't give that yet. I don't know, maybe never, because they are not human beings. But
mhm,
the other thing is these things are developing so fast now, and that means you need to keep up with that
mhm,
to be able to use it. And being a scientist and a researcher, there's so many things that you have to do. There's tons of things. Sometimes you barely have time to do research, and then there's this other thing you have to do, and then you have to do the figures as well. You can't, so you need to outsource it to somebody like me. And then if you wouldn't want that, or if you wouldn't have the budget for paying someone like me, you need to learn how to use any type of AI tool. It takes time and takes effort. It takes time away from your research, from your actual expertise, because scientists are there to do science and to do research. They're not there to, do all the other 50,000 things, because that's not their expertise.
mhm,
And and then it's just um, many just don't want to. And then comes to it that it's just it just can't deliver when it comes to scientific illustrations.
mhm,
Generally speaking, my thought on artificial intelligence and all these tools, I'm very critical towards it. I think it's going to stay, it's going to develop, and so on and so forth. But I think it has, humanity is not really ready yet to be able to handle it properly. And I imagine, like as I said, I grew up without no phones and no computers, so I still I was playing outside most of the time. Now the generations that they constantly hang on their electronical devices, and how are they going to learn, use their brain and their critical thinking and their empathy and their human skills when all of this artificial intelligence is now thrown at us? I wish sometimes that people would speak more about, okay, how do I actually handle criticism? How do I
mhm,
work in a team? How do I interact and communicate? How do I, all these types of soft skills that are called soft skills that are
mhm,
to me very essential. These are things that should be thrown out in the world of the internet, like how to learn that, how to train that, not how to press a button in some kind of a machine that
mhm.
gives you some kind of suboptimal visual. Because that's, I think I have a little bit of a critical view on that.
No, 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 you're absolutely right. And the scientific illustration is a very good case to demonstrate how far we are to get this autonomous artificial intelligence that makes that people fear. Because if I write a prompt in ChatGPT, for example,
Mm.
about, hey, this is the prompt. Write me a prompt for DAL-E or Midjourney to describe um, the photosynthesis, for example. I want it to be very precise and use molecules and molecules formula, extra blah blah blah. And I copy and paste the prompt into Midjourney or DALI, and the result is awful, full of mistakes, and and you can edit it any time, 1,000 times. You will never reach what you can do, because
No.
you need to understand science. You need to discuss with the scientist. You understand what he or she has in his mind, what
Yes.
the message he wants to communicate, and of course translate all of this into something that is visually understandable by other human beings, scientists or non-scientists, etc., and to adapt your drawing to what are your target audience. And this is a very great case study to show how far we are from this
Yeah.
singularity of Skynet artificial intelligence.
Yeah. The other thing is that many times. Would you mind actually to stop sharing the screen? I like to see you bigger so that I have the feeling that I look at you.
Okay, let me just stop this.
Yes,
uh,
because it feels like you have very tiny little spots, so I don't see your eyes. Yes,
okay,
like
we are
this.
back.
Yes.
We are back.
Yeah, the other thing I wanted to say, so many times I've met with scientists that after discussing the illustration with them, they
Mm,
realized the flaw in the writing. Not that there was something wrong, but the
mm,
flow of it was not quite right. Or in their head, something was so clear, but it didn't come like through in my scribbles, for
mm,
example. So they sometimes say like, okay, maybe we should first do the focus on the illustration and then I rewrite the text around it. So
mm, mm,
sometimes, even though scientists know so much about the thing, it's sometimes, you know, somehow hidden, and aspects of it they don't know. Only by talking to another scientist that's not an expert, these things get revealed. And
mm.
an artificial intelligence like, ChatGPT won't be able to do it. I once tried to put Arabidopsis thaliana in the AI generative tool in Adobe Illustrator. It gave me some random, like generic plant with two leaves. I mean, come on, there's so many things out there in the internet. That's like embarrassing almost. So yeah, so this is just another little anecdote. So yeah, I think we're
Well, we
aligned
are,
on
yeah,
that.
absolutely aligned. So I had, another question about now your next step as a founder, as a company. Would you want to? How would you want to grow? Do you want to to focus on your skills and your client, etc.? Do you want to? Do you see some kind of expansion? I don't know, maybe hiring, hiring other illustrators and becoming an agency. Do you want maybe to also to pivot it to other type of illustration, such as animated illustration?
Mhm.
That I'm fascinated, by animated illustration, particularly in molecular biology. When you see all these molecules,
Mm.
because they are also an extension of your expertise. So, and this is fascinating. Where do you want to go?
Oh God, where do I want to go? So, like, I could start on last thing. And when it comes to animation, I have somebody that I work with that is an animator, like a motion designer. So sometimes we do projects where I illustrate and he animates. Because if I
Mm,
would want to learn animation, it's a complete new job skill
mm,
set,
mm,
and that I'm not interested in. I rather would collaborate with others. If I want to grow into an agency, it's a hard no.
mm,
Because if I would do that, then that would mean I would have to, in my head, somehow stop illustrating, stop
mm,
interacting with my clients and trying to find them and give them to others. And so that what I actually love is to interact with other people, is to learn about the science and to throw art on it. So
mm,
if I would grow, these type of activities would diminish
mm,
somehow,
mm,
and I don't want that. I To collaborate with other people would be great. Um, and but so for me, I have so many ideas now. Like in that whole journey, I started to realize that I really like to do abstract art paintings. So part of my crazy idea for my life is to become an abstract painter, that I at some point, do abstract art because I really love it. uh, and then if clients come for scientific illustration, I still do them because I have
mm,
favorite clients that always come to me and I don't want to drop them. And then the other
mm,
thing is like, oh, maybe I should, the physics thing is somehow inside of me now. And then it's a lot of about humanity and spirituality and stuff that I like, oh my God, then so closely coupled to science actually and art. And maybe I should do that in some way, one way or another. So I have tons of ideas and I can't
mm,
give you one line because for me, ideally, what I could do all the kinds of things that I like, sometimes this, sometimes that, working with that person and having that awesome client, and then maybe selling some paintings here, maybe doing some kind of exhibition, maybe, write a freaking comic book about basic physics concepts and making them understandable for people, normal people, and take away the fear and hate from physics that I used to have. So there's so many things. I can't give you one answer.
but I got it. What is important in life is to know what you don't want to do, and you don't want to grow as an agency because it will push you out of your what you love to do is illustration, and also moving toward animation, as you said, because it's a new job, it's a new expertise, but you can collaborate, of course, with animators
Yeah.
or storytellers for TV, for any type of because pop science, there are different way of
Mhm.
using illustration. Uh, so, how would you recommend a young scientist, PhD or master degree, whatever the level, who wants to to also become a scientific illustrator? Uh, First of all, can we learn to draw, or is it
Okay.
innate or versus learned skills? Or and then the technique you use with with the tablet, the software you use, are they difficult? Is it something you encourage? Because I see that you offer a mentoring program to teach scientists to become
Mhm.
illustrator. So what is your point on that?
So if anybody wants to become a scientific illustrator, freaking go for it. It's really needed. It's
Mm,
in it's needed so much, and there's not too few potential clients out in the world. There's so many instances, so many people that need it, and each one of us has a very specific niche and set of people and network that we know. I won't reach the people that you have, same to
mm,
anybody else. And if you are a scientist that is interested in art and can do art, and draw and illustrate, it's a really perfect combination. And then if you're also socially skilled and a decent human being, that's even better.
mm,
And so these things are a really good basis. And then what to do about, like, when it comes to the you asked if everybody can draw. So I always say, not everybody can read and write, but everybody, you give them a stick and are on the beach, will be
mm,
able to draw a stick figure, and everybody else will know that's a human.
mm,
So we can all draw one way or another in a different type of skill set, range of skills. Well,
mm,
yeah, well, but it is about practice. It is about being determined and to learn and to practice and to draw and illustrate over and over again. If you don't have joy doing it, forget about it. Don't
absolutely.
even,
Mm,
that's no point. We won't get better and be enjoying what we do. But drawing and painting and illustrating is totally, if you have, like, if you burn for it, go for it. It's just practice. And then when it comes to the tools, some of the tools have a really steep learning curve. Don't overwhelm yourself. Pick a vector-based program, whatever it is, free, paid, doesn't matter, and a raster-based program, and get yourself a tablet so
mm,
that you don't have to draw with this, mouse pad or the mouse and get cramps in your hand. And then become an expert in these two tools. Well, if you want to do 3D renderings, then maybe get another one, another
mm,
program. But just get as good as possible at them. You don't need to have 50,000 softwares and hardwares and
mm.
everything. It's not that complicated. And then it counts practice. Do and do and do. You will get better with time. And already when you have the inclination towards being interested in art and in science, you will most likely be already way better than any scientist that just doesn't give a shit about visuals.
Absolutely, and most of them use PowerPoint, to make their
Yeah,
illustration that are awful. So there
yeah,
are plenty of opportunity. Of course, if you like and you have this pleasure, to do this job, it's a great great opportunity, and you can of course help them if you want
yes.
if they want. Because I see on your site that you offer a mentoring program. So
Mhm.
if you are a master degree, a PhD, or postdoc, you want to to find a way to develop your skills in
Mhm.
something parallel of science but related to science, knock at the door of
Yes,
Daria. I'm
yes,
pretty sure you can help them.
yes, yes.
Fantastic. Daria, maybe to conclude this interview, would you like to recommend anything else about book, resource, or you want to share related to science, related to scientific communication, or absolutely something else that just to culture to nurture our curiosity, something you like?
Oh my God. You caught me in one of my weaknesses, and I can't remember titles or names of songs, books, or anything. So I
I am the
cannot,
same.
I cannot come up with something right from the top, but there is a lot of nice resources out there, and it really depends on what you like. Also, the way you want.
What did you read or watch recently that you like it and you maybe want to share? It could be related to science or absolutely not. Anything.
Anything that I recently read or watched, and I mean, I recently discovered The Baby University by Chris Ferry, and he is making books for babies about quantum
Mm,
physics. Amazing.
wow. Okay,
Yeah.
great.
So that's my recent discovery. I love this, and that's the way of, basically bringing science to the littlest ones of our race, and I
Mm,
love that. So there is this, gems out there that are researchers and scientists that do these other things, and that I thought was great. And then, like, connected to that, the publisher that does all kinds of, children's books
mm.
explaining different things. That's my recent. So, and he writes really nice blog articles as well. Chris Ferry, I can recommend.
Okay, I will add the the link in the blog article.
Mhm.
Thank you so much, Daria.
Thanks a lot.
Did I forget to ask you a question you would like me to ask? So, last word maybe.
No, I think you did. You asked a lot, and I don't think there
I'll
was
ask too much
anything
question.
missing.
Okay, great. It was such a pleasure to have you because I really like your journey, and how you manage the transition to become an entrepreneur. And this is really great and inspiring. And thank you again for being my guest. It was a great pleasure to have you.
Thank you so much. It was a lot of fun, and I really appreciate it.